thank you very much for joining me. My name's John Dooner, and I'm the owner of DY3 Solutions. We're a company that does a lot of work in developing communications within organisations and encouraging personal growth. So, unusually, I'm going to start a brief presentation about confidence by sharing with you an anxiety dream of mine. So, what happens is this. I've got a big event coming up, and it's either I'm in a band and we've got a new song, or I'm in a play and I have a part in this play. And we're coming up to performance, and for weeks before I know that I should have been practicing, I should have been rehearsing, and I've convinced myself it's okay, I can wing this. And now it's performance night, and I'm out there and I'm doing it and I'm getting it wrong, and everybody else in the performance knows I'm getting it wrong, and this includes the audience. And it's about at that point that I tend to wake up in a cold sweat. And I have to tell you that that's something that I wouldn't wish on anyone. One, the dream and waking up in the cold sweat, and two, the prospect that having chosen to wing something, you're faced now with performance day, and you really don't know what to do. So if it's okay with you all, I'm going to give you a few ideas about how we can avoid this, and also to bring some confident behaviours in front of you so that you can think, okay, let's see what's the best fit we can get here, which ones suit me, my personality, and most of all, what it is I want to do. Resilience has worked its way into the language of success, of characteristics that we're looking for. I see it as something that's very closely linked to confidence, and when we're using them, they're actually quite interchangeable, aren't they? We're looking about grit, we're looking about stickability, we're looking at the capacity to bounce back, that potential to take 10 deep breaths, game face on and get on with it. I think though, when we're using these ideas, we have to bear in mind that the views of others have a bearing on our confidence and therefore our resilience, and vice versa. And I'm just giving you a simple little thing to remember here. And here it goes. I am three people. I am the person I think I am. I am the person you think I am. I am most likely to be the person who I think you think I am. So we're going to use the time during this piece of work to see if there are some developments that we can make, some things we can try to inform the ideas other people may have of us, and then we take that feedback from them. You see, one of the big problems is that there's a sort of assumption that we've either got stacks of it or none. But that's not the truth, and we know it's the truth that there are at least 24 touching points in between. And what we need to take a look at, I think, is where confidence exists, what we want it to be, and most of all, what do you want to do with it when you've got it? So, for example, you could take somebody who's a really confident athlete who would be terrified at the prospect of addressing even a small audience. You may have a confident business executive who would no more face a class of 7-year-olds than they would eat broken glass coated in cyanide. And a lot about confidence is about how we deal with our uncertainty when we're moving ourselves just a little bit away from our comfort zone. And what we've done here is to just play around with the word confidence and give a few headings to it to see if we can just get a context in which things happen. And let's start with the idea that things happen within context. So we're starting with C, context, mainly because that's the first letter of the word confidence and it fits just brilliantly. But I want to remind you about something I've already said, and that context is absolutely everything. And to throw out again the question, what is it that you want to be confident at? And that's your bit. And I'd just like you to think about that now. If there was one area that you could improve upon, what would it be? So can you just hold for a second and think about that? Okay, have you got that now? Now, let's just try something. I'd like you for 15 seconds to think about what is the scariest thing you've done in your life to date, and how did you feel when you'd done it? So if you can run with that with me, let's start our 15 seconds now. Well, a couple of things should have gone on now. One, you will have an idea about what the scariest thing is that you've done to date. And two, and perhaps every bit as important, you will understand that 15 seconds is quite a long time when it's silent. Right. I'd like to take you back now to just accessing those feelings that you had when you'd done that scary thing and you got through it, over it, round it, or under it. Exactly how did you feel? And I'd like you to hold on to that. If we're going to develop our confidence in any context, we need to remember that we are not at home to phrases like if only. Because what that does, I think, is take away the ownership of our confidence and donate it elsewhere. So it feels really important to me that we control and take ownership of what we can control. And we feel that we have done what can be done to deliver us in good shape to meet our challenge. What we've done is to take an option. And the option you've made is to access your existing resources and to bring forward some really strong cues and reminders of when you have displayed confidence. And now I'd like you to extend that and think a little bit more of when you've displayed not only confidence, but when you've displayed courage, when you've displayed determination, when you've been resilient, and when you have displayed heart, soul, and backbone. And by that I mean that you've had courage, you've had passion and conviction, and you've had the strength of character to see yourself through and to deliver on something that was actually quite a challenge for you. Now, when we've done that, we've got a really powerful resource that we can tap into. And now let's go back to some of our previous thinking. Those situations in which you are naturally confident, where you feel good, where you feel okay. And let's remember, sometimes feeling good enough is good enough. It's not about being the best and outstanding. It's about feeling that, you know what, I feel good enough to get me through this and it will be all right. So if we can think about that natural state, what does that give us that we can transfer? And how do we do it? I often worry about this one because there's something that sounds dreadfully insincere about fake it until you make it. And it's the word fake, isn't it? Well, all right. However, it fits together into a nice snappy sounding sentence. And what we're actually talking about here is, can I put enough rehearsal into the task I'm expected to do so that there is no danger of it being interpreted that I'm winging it, especially by me? So it's about rehearsal and preparation. You'll recall the little exercise we did a couple of minutes ago when I asked you to think of something, one of the scariest things you've done and how you got through it and what you felt like at the end. And I asked you to notice a few things. I'd now like you to think about maybe something that wasn't quite so scary, not quite so big, but you knew at that time you were using a set of skills or beliefs or behaviours that got you through it. Now I'd like you to hold on to that and just project it into a challenge that you might have, that you might want to be thinking about. How am I going to do this? What we're doing here is we're tapping into a very resourceful space and using it to turbocharge a space that may not be quite as resourceful. We're saying to ourselves, I can do this. When I talk to people about what it is that you'd like to be confident at, so many of them say to me, oh, it's public speaking, John. So here are 3 practical things that are good examples of what we all can do just to help us get through that bear trap laden place of public speaking. And these are quite transferable. They're just ideas. It's okay, right? What are the things that might help me here? First one, slow it down just a little. Put questions out there. They're great. They get people involved and it's all right. And if no one answers, don't get stuck. Move on. And the third one, just keep a bottle of water handy. Because if you do dry, and I don't mean your voice, actually, I've just forgotten what I need to say next. It's far easier to say to an audience, I'm just going to help myself for a drink if you'll excuse me. Because no one is going to say, no, suffer. And people are going to feel all right about that. It gives you a chance to gather your resources and maybe yes, think, oh, I can't for the life of me remember it. I'm taking this somewhere else. And I promise you that if you do that, you will get back into that quite resourceful state and you'll be able to get yourself back on track. Some decisions just have to be made. And there's a big decision in giving yourself thinking time and procrastinating. The one's actually about addressing it, and the other one is about kicking it into the long grass and hoping it goes away. Now, if the decision isn't going to go away, and you know it's not going to go away, then what you've really got to do is get on with it, and to do that with some heart and soul and backbone. You have to commit yourself to doing it. If you don't, you are going to feel worse about it as the deadline approaches, and your confidence is going to suffer. So here are just 2 things that you can do. Talk to people who you trust. This isn't a matter of you going and brain dumping on them and telling them how awful your life is. It's about accessing their skills, their knowledge, their experience, their qualities that make them good, trusted friends. Listen to what they've got to say. Does it fit your values and beliefs and what you've got to do? What can you glean from it? And never, ever forget to say, thanks very much, that's been really helpful. See if you can visualize yourself having delivered the decision that's been causing you some angst, some uncertainty. And as we've done before, think about how you want to feel. So I'm stretching the boundaries a little bit here, but I say exercise as a form of practice. Bear with me. So, in your mind, maybe even in your room, a private space, think about a decision that you need some confidence for and set the scene. And then decide what you're going to wear. Now, if you're playing a sport, that decision's pretty much made for you. But, is it stuff that you like? Is it stuff that you feel good in? Is it comfortable? If it's new, does it fit? Pretty straightforward questions that can have a massive impact on the day. Think about how, again, you want to feel when it's done. And also, think about how you want other people to feel about your achievement. And there is nothing wrong in saying to yourself, I want other people to feel good about me, because actually, that's how I want to feel about myself. One of the positives of using fake it till you make it as a bit of a guiding light is that your behaviour then starts to look natural. Or, in role, we can switch into that. And let's remember, everyone started somewhere. top performers in music, in public life, politics, your lecturers, family members who you might look at and think, well, you're good at that. They all started from somewhere, and I can promise you that somewhere wasn't quite as good as it is now. And for those of you who've been through it, just remember your first driving lesson and compare it to how you're doing now. Learn from other people. Look at people who are good at stuff, people who've impressed you, people who have got something about them that you think, wow, I wouldn't mind learning a little more about that. Think about how you're going to approach them. And bear in mind that we are naturally a generous and sharing species. And if it is that they don't want to help you, then thank them for listening, thank them for the time, walk away and promise to yourself that you will never do that to another human being, because you know what? I'm better than that. And you will be. It's easier when it's clearer. So I'm going to advise you to declutter what it is we're having some difficulties in addressing. And to do that, let's be clear about what we want. Let's be clear about why we want it. So those two are about our motivations, aren't they? And then let's be clear about what's required of you. What have I got to do? What have I got to deliver? What's expected of me? What do I expect of myself? And then to take the last point, at what point will you convert your thoughts into actions? Now, whether your thoughts are put on a mind map, whether they're a list, whether they're recorded on a smartphone, I have no strong view. But what I do recommend is that you do develop a system where you take a few notes, written, verbal, pictorial, don't mind, and access them and develop them. Most of all, you need to get yourself into a place where you can enjoy what it is you have to do. So I'm now going to bring us to the end of our piece of work. And unusually, I'm going to do it by reading verbatim to you something I've written. And it's this. You will enjoy it. I promise you that there'll be a point at which you will look back on something about which you were once fearful. And you will enjoy the feeling of managing the fear. It's a great and sustaining place to be. And you know what? I'm going to prove it to you, because can you remember earlier in the presentation when I asked you to think about something fearful that you actually got through, and I asked you to just remember those feelings and the kind of lift it gave you? You can have more of that, but there's an approach, and that's what we spent the last few minutes talking about. I hope that you have an opportunity to use some of these ideas and that you find that they're making a significant contribution to your personal and professional development. And I'd now like to close by wishing you all the very best of luck in taking these steps on a journey that is well worth beginning, well worth noticing, and actually interesting enough, it's never ever really over. Thanks again. Good luck.